coronavirus pandemic has the potential to be one of the biggest geopolitical phenomenons of this new decade. Do not underestimate this disease. It is viral and it is deadly. This is not the common cold or the flu. It will continue to spread across the world, and many will suffer while economies and production lines slowly screech to a complete halt. Domestically, President Trump will need to continue to be vigilant on this issue if he is to prevent it from becoming his Katrina. His re-election depends on a strong economy and the public's faith that he can keep this country safe. The coronavirus, if not properly dealt with, can railroad all his great successes as president and pave the way for both election upsets and an economic contraction.
I absolutely believe the coronavirus's negative impact on the economy will significantly damage Donald Trump's chances of being reelected in November. Trump's only real accomplishment to run on is the strong economy. Many moderate voters in 2020 will overlook what they dislike about Trump, such as temperament and his more extreme positions, because the economy is doing well. However, as the coronavirus slowly erodes economic stability, more and more voters will turn on Trump. On top of that, as the coronavirus inevitably becomes more widespread, Trump will be blamed for the mishandling of the crisis unless by some miracle his administration does something right. Pundits always said the greatest test of Trump would be how his administration reacts to a crisis. Well, now we have one of the largest health crises in a decade, and Trump has done little to prove critics wrong. The coronavirus could very well be his undoing and give Democrats the presidency in November.
Hello, I'm David Grasso, and you're watching Bold TV. Our burning question today, will the coronavirus impact the 2020 election? Let's hear from our panelists. We have Gavin Wax, he's the president of the New York Young Republicans, and Nate Lerner, executive director of Build the Wave. Welcome to you both. So we heard from you off the top. How is corona going to affect the 2020 election? Nate.
Well, I think we're already seeing it's going to have a negative impact. The economy has been slowing down. The stock market is going down as well. Trump has really not done much in response to it effectively, and I think it's going to just increase and get worse over time.
So, Gavin, the problem with a lot of this type of stuff, of handling of a situation like this, you mentioned Katrina, perception is often more important than reality, isn't it?
Absolutely correct. And I would push back a bit. I would say he was one of the first world leaders to come out and strongly try to enforce border controls from the affected areas. So he was getting ahead of it. I did disagree with him in how much he tried to, massage the markets and try to keep the stock markets going, and putting it down a bit is not as big of a deal as it is, and maybe heaping too much praise on the Chinese. But since then, it's been pretty solid in terms of the team that he's assembling and what he's doing. And if he continues to be proactive and take this head on, he should be fine going into 2020.
So, Nate, it's really interesting, right, that at the same time, power has coalesced around Joe Biden, and Corona has, the cat has been let out of the bag, per se, and now the 2020 election changed entirely in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if there's so much a tie between Corona and Joe Biden. There was more, the other moderates dropping out. But I think it is a good opportunity for Democrats because Joe Biden is tested. He was very well liked while in office. He really didn't have any major gaffes, despite his other than his speaking while in office.
Joe Biden's a little gaff prone.
Exactly, yes. But he didn't have any major errors. People trust him. I think they would trust him in the event of a crisis. And so I think he probably would be one of the Democrats' most trusted during the coronavirus pandemic.
Isn't that interesting, Gavin? Because Joe Biden is an institution all on his own, and perhaps he has been around so long that he's quite old. But
right.
The perception is that perhaps he could handle a disaster like this better.
I don't know if that way of thinking is still in vogue. I think with the election of Trump, everything is turned on its head. I don't think these institutional candidates and these institutional Democrats or Republicans have some kind of leg up in terms of their credibility and how they can handle a natural disaster or a virus like the coronavirus. I think that's kind of being turned on its head, and it's more about, who they are as individuals and less so what they represent in terms of the institutions or the parties or their backers.
So let's talk about the coronavirus scientifically. Of course, as the weather gets warmer, viruses go dormant, but when it gets colder, they come raging back. Of course, our election is right when it starts to get cold. So do you foresee a situation where maybe, we have a big viral spike right before the election?
Yeah, asterisk for everything I say. I'm not a scientist, but that being said, my understanding is that as it gets warmer, it will get better. But we also, the coronavirus is so new, we don't really know how it's going to respond to warm weather. We also don't know how far it'll go away, how much it'll come back. But what's very clear is that it is extremely contagious. It is inevitably going to spread more in the U.S. I think the response has been. I think we've kind of overreacted to it, understandably. It's not going to be quite as bad as I think people sometimes make it out to be. That being said, it will get worse before it gets better. And really, regardless, it's going to have an impact on Trump, no matter where we are in November.
So, Gavin, one of the things the administration has offered to do is pay for people who don't have insurance to be treated for corona, and that hasn't really been covered by the press.
Yeah, and I think this is a solid option that he's putting on the table. I fully support it, and I somewhat agree with what Nate said. We don't know a lot about it, and that's what makes it scary. This is unknown. This is new. There's no natural immunity. It's very viral, and the mortality rate continues to rise as we see cases start to spread in more developed countries like, say, Italy, where we have more transparency in the actual numbers, compared to China, where we're basing most of our data on and we don't really have accurate data. So that's really what's troubling, is how little we know, how fast it's spreading, and the full scope of what we're facing.
And this is where it gets interesting, Nate, right? Because the economy, coronavirus, a lot of these things the government cannot control. They only have so many tools at their disposal. So is it one of those things that, like, oops, this is just bad luck for the Trump campaign?
Oh, it's horrendous luck, and this is the great irony is how he has built his entire campaign on economy, which really experts have agreed for decades the president really doesn't actually have control over. Presidents tend to run on the economy regardless, though, and voters still associate them with the economy. As Bill Clinton famously said, it's the economy, stupid. But that being said, yes, this is horrendous luck, bad luck for Trump, because it hurts his economy, it hurts his stock market he's been running on, and now it's this massive test of his competency, which, well, to be, which we don't really know if he's up.
But Nate makes a point. He has tied himself to the economy, but in all fairness to Trump and his people, the economy has been better.
Right, and I think if the Democrats really push this point and try to throw him under the bus for corona, it's going to backfire on them. I think the voters are wise enough to this. They know that you cannot blame the president for a possible bioweapon spreading across the U.S. You could blame him for actions or lack thereof, but up until now, he's done everything he should be doing and can be doing. There's definitely been some failures at the state and local level, some failures within the CDC for sure, but for the most part, he is handling the crisis. He is approaching it head on. His press conference the other week, I mean, you could read body language there. There was a dour look on him and Mike Pence's face. If you want to get into conspiracy theories and everything there. It was a little somber. But beyond that, if the Democrats keep pushing this, it's going to backfire on them. We need to come together as a country. We need to find consensus like this $8 billion package just got through Congress. Those are solid steps. That will help all sides.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you.
And thank you all for watching today's panel. Have a great day.